everyone. I'm G.A. Bowie with USA Kansas, and we're excited you're able to join us today. We really appreciate the opportunity to join you in your locations. We know this is not necessarily the best way to provide information, but we really felt it was important that we were able to connect with you. So thanks again for joining us in this virtual workshop. And we have got some really exciting things to share with you today. We at USA have been partners with Train for a number of years, and Train is the leading HVAC folks in the network out there, and you guys, many of you have them in your building or in your homes, but they do so much more with partnerships with education, and what they're doing with Beloit and some other schools around Kansas is really phenomenal. So we wanted to share exactly what they're doing, how that's worked, and really how it's benefited the kids along the way, because it is really something really special. So I'm going to get off here just for a while. I introduce Dan Whistler, former educator, and I don't know exactly what his title is with Train, but I'll let him explain it. And then Jeff Travis, who is the superintendent at Beloit, and they're going to start the day and kind of share with you a little bit, and then we'll move on through the day. So if you'll keep your screens muted as much as possible, and we'll give them a chance to share their screens and have a conversation. And just FYI, we are recording this event, so if you're live on your screens, just be aware it's being recorded. So Dan and Jeff, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, GA. I'll start and introduce myself. As GA said, I'm the Jeff Travis, superintendent at Beloit. I have with me Brady Dean, elementary principal at Beloit, Casey Seifert, junior senior high school principal at Beloit, and Dan Whistler, our team educator from Train, and Kevin Ward, our team consultant from Train. So as we talk about this today, I kind of tried to reflect and think why this project and why this partnership is so important to us. And I think when we're done today, you'll see why we chose this project and why this has been such a perfect fit for us. We're a Gemini 1 school, and when we looked at our redesign process, we really wanted a process that was going to help, and we wanted it to meet our goals of our KESA accreditation, because we married those two processes. So we wanted relationship and relevance being our biggest goals with our students, to make sure that this matched, and they have. And you're going to see why this partnership has been so big with that. And it's allowed us to focus on these goals as we actually change our environment and our physical buildings around us. We talked about, and I'm stealing this term or this phrase from Dan Whistler, who's on this team. So I'm not trying to steal Dan's thunder here, but education, when you look at education, redesigning education, or just education in general, it shouldn't be stagnant. It should be changing. It shouldn't be described as a stagnant noun. It should be a verb. It should be an action plan. And that's what we want out of our education. So we pride ourselves at Beloit on being a student-led district. And student-led really has been what this initiative's been about with Train, and they've kept the students first with us. How this came about really is I met with our Stuco students, and as that time I asked them, and every year I meet with them, I ask them, what do you want? What do you want out of the school redesign? What do you want out of school? Because the high school students are some of your best people to talk to, and they'll be honest with you. And there was two resounding things that came out of that first meeting with them, is that they wanted their buildings were not comfortable. The air quality was not good. It was not a fun place to hang out for 7 to 8 hours a day because of the comfort in the buildings. And they wanted more engineering with their STEM that we were putting in. So with that case, I went right to Kevin Ward and I said, we need to look at putting a partnership together. We need to look at putting this together and doing this. And through many talks between the admin team, through Kevin Ward's team, Clark Coco is in this audience. I know he was part of these conversations as well. This project came about, and the BTU crew developed through the school redesign, through KISA accreditation, whatever you want to say. We've been able to put this process together, and we're very happy about that. As you'll hear from the principals, who will tell the story much better than I will, but we've turned our buildings into living, learning labs to where the students are using our buildings as a science project, basically, and making it a better place to be comfort-wise. Plus, we're getting those engineer skills that they wanted, or that background to them through train as well. The students are analyzing that data. They've gone out and proposed the changes through help with train. They made the presentation to the board. They did the analytics, and now once the changes are being made and have been made, they're doing the analytics to prove whether the changes were right or wrong on top of that. We've accomplished many things through this partnership besides just these two things that I'm talking about. You're going to hear about many other things that this project has morphed into with wind energy, with just other partnerships that have developed because of this. And I don't know a better way that we could have brought a school redesign project effort with a business and industry partner than how we've done this. And it incorporates everything from the relationship goals to the relevance goals. It includes rigor, the responsive culture, and frankly, we're getting results out of this now. So I'm going to turn this over to Casey, Brady, and Dan at this point and allow them to speak about the process so that you can see how this process has gone. And truly, I am excited about how this process has developed and how this process will continue to develop, because it's an ongoing process. It's not going to end. It's going to continue with this, and it's going to continue to provide our students with those skill sets that they need in this CTE world. So I will now turn this over to the rest of the team.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Dan Missler here. I was a high school science teacher for 33 years, now working with Train as educator in residence. Literally, my role is to serve as a bridge between business and industry and teachers and students in the classroom. What Jeff was describing, the partnerships, P3, public-private partnerships, Train was a part of working with the Board of Regents. Blake Flanders, Kevin Ward started in 2012. Dr. Watson visited with Train in 2017 as far as making the connections. And a lot of this, again, goes back to providing the career awareness and career opportunities for students in our classroom, tying in with what's happening with school redesign. So this is an ongoing process. I'm serving on the Governor's Council for Education, working with Diploma Plus and work-based learning. So it truly is a team effort in reaching our students and making these career opportunities available. NC3 is a new organization about 10 years old. So when we look at the career opportunities that are out there, there are a lot of great careers that you don't necessarily have to have a 4-year engineering degree to be able to open the door and get started. So that's what we're working with Diploma Plus. How do we bring these technical training, the employability skills, how do we make that a part of the high school experience? So with NC3, what we were able to do, it's a third-party certification. These are actually pictures from our climate and energy control lab at Washburn Tech. So students are able to graduate with a high school diploma and an industry recognized certification that then allows them to open the door for career opportunities that are out there. One of the benefits, it's a bit of a paradigm shift. Train is one of many companies, and if the student wants to go on and pursue a 4-year degree, they actually have tuition reimbursement to assist with that. So it does change the career path for students, and that's what we're working on. There is a tremendous need out there. So when we look at workforce development, identifying the high demand, high wage opportunities, it is a matter of educating the students and educating the parents regarding the careers that are out there and what it takes to be qualified for those careers. If we look at KBOR's Foresight 2020, we tend to take, when we study energy as a society, we tend to take electricity for granted. In Kansas last year, in 2018, we certified 145 electricians. We need over 700 a year. So this is a way, again, of bringing this awareness to the classroom and providing the opportunities to receive the technical training as a part of the process. One of the things I like, again, having been a science teacher for 33 years, is bringing in the concept of learning by doing. It's not science trivia, it's not memorizing facts so that you can turn around and put them on a test on Friday, especially in the information age. What are we able to do with that information after we have it? And having students share what they're learning is one of the best ways to do it. Teaching others is one of the best ways to learn, and that's what we provide that opportunity as a part of this program. I'm going to turn things over to Casey and Brady. It has been a team effort working with administration in Beloit, the teachers and the students, and the pieces have really come together. So I'm going to let them share more about the program that you see.
Good morning. I'm Casey Seifert, principal at the high school, and we're going to go, and Brady Dean's here. We're going to go over kind of our plan from back when we started as Gemini and our KISA. They came about the same time, and while we're both on the committee, we figured as a team, let's combine this so we're not coming up with different goals for KISA and different goals for Gemini. Let's put them together. And so looking at our KISA, we're looking at relationships, relevance, responsive culture, and rigor. And so that's the focus, and we picked relationships and relevance in what we were going to focus on, and how could we tie those to our Gemini 1 goals and what exactly we needed to do. So what can we, how can we put relationships into student success skills? How do we put the two together? And the same thing with community partnerships. We wanted to grow our community partnerships, and we really wanted to look at some business and industry. We're a small community. We have 4,000 people here, and so we're looking, how do we get global? How do we get our students worldly experience when we might be limited in our total amount that we can offer just here? And so this has been a great opportunity for that. Personalized learning, how do we make it? And I'm going to go from a high school perspective, but like, how do we make high school kids care about this stuff? Well, you make it relevant to them, and you show them, this is your building. And we ask them, and we surveyed them. It's like, what don't you like? And it was, that room is stuffy, that room is hot. Okay, how do you change it? What do you want to do to change it? Well, it doesn't get better than a kid saying, I want this changed, and then the change being made, and the kids then seeing, hey, we have some actual proof that this works. And so anytime you can get kids involved to see change and create change, then they're going to buy in, and it goes much more. And so that leads to the real world application. How do I do that outside of this high school? And what do I need to do to maybe get a career in this field? And what we found is the field is not limited. And where you might say that's HVAC or whatever, like there's so many different levels of what it might be. And I'll let Brady talk about the elementary school and kind of how they took it there.
Yeah, at the elementary school, when we started this journey, as a staff, we wanted to bring more real world application through science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields, into the elementary level and at that level. And also we have a building-wide initiative of project-based learning going on. And this partnership that we formed with Train is meets both of those initiatives that we outlined in our redesign plan through this in-depth study of energy. And it's a real world project-based learning experience that's going on every day at the elementary school. As you'll learn later, when they installed energy sensors throughout our building, and we started collecting data and real world data about the building and the changes, and where we have identified problem areas as far as air quality or heating and air problems. And then like Casey said, we surveyed the students and staff and learned what areas were problematic. And then we had the data come in to support that. And that really brings that real world application, because students are living in this building every day, and then they're seeing real-time data come through, and they can start making decisions as they analyze this data on actionable steps that they could take to improve that. And so this partnership was was really fit for our redesign initiatives as we move forward with that.
And I would say when we're looking at this from the high school level and how do we get our kids engaged, the data from our buildings was probably the #1 key. And so when we go through this, when you put actual data and instead of having 12 data points, and this is the key graph there, which is a bit overwhelming on the bottom, but after you understand it, it flows together very well. So we went from 12 points on here's your bill, here's how much you're paying, to here's a daily snippet into 15-minute increments, and here is the chart, and then we can manipulate that however we see fit. Well, from a principal's point of view, I'm saying we can't get any better at training kids for the ACT science portion than reading charts and graphs and seeing all of that, because if they can understand this, they can understand any of the charts and graphs. And so it was a simple sell for that on, hey, this is going to improve your scores, and kids want to know that. Well, then what they find out quickly is, hey, like, I understand this, I understand where it goes, and I want to know why. Why are we starting all of our startup at 6 a.m.? Why don't we stagger it? Because they learn along the way. We've had several speakers in to explain how energy is basically sold to us and how we purchase it, and the fact that when we start it all up at once, it costs us a lot more than if we stagger the start. And so that's key when we're looking at the science standards and what we want to do. The key to that is prepare them for the future, but also the ACT is where money is at. And if we can give them a little extra in a STEM class saying, like, you understand these graphs and charts and can analyze them, you're going to be prepared for that. The other aspect that we really wanted them to be able to do was think, and I'm going to say overcome some problems and not just be given an answer. It's not just hey, here's the question, you provide the answer. It's come up with some critical thinking and solve some problems for us. And so one of the first things the students said is, you're not charging enough to rent the buildings when we allow other people to use our electricity. And so, you know, that's anytime kids are understanding that there's a cost benefit theory, and if we're only charging a certain amount to rent the building, but we can see on the energy usage that it's costing us more than that, then our kids are thinking critically and outside the box. And they're also realizing that, hey, we probably should focus on a few other things. And so the next question was, what kind of lights do we have? Why don't we have sensors in the bathrooms? Why don't we have switches that go on and off based on movement? And so now we do. And so the change has taken place over time, and we continue to add in what sometimes kids lack is we can't make wholesale changes all at once because things cost money. So as much as we would like to say, like, yes, we're going to go all solar, it's not free. And so we slowly integrate and we go from there. Do you want to go on this one here, Dan, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can. Appreciate Brady and Casey, what they're sharing there. It really has been a process and a team effort working together. My role is finding out, again, what's already in place in the district, what pieces are out there to add support. There isn't a one-size-fits-all. Each district is unique. So we look for what's in place in the district and how can we provide the best opportunities for teachers in the classroom and students, what they're learning at that time, and again, preparation for careers ahead. The PBL and the STEM part, you know, the best way to measure what a student is learning isn't just to take a test. There's a lot more ways to engage kids in the learning process. There's a lot of support in communities, and there's a lot of support statewide to help make these things happen. I've been involved in energy education for 10 plus years now, so I'm fortunate with as far as bringing in outside resources. And then being able to do some long range planning. Part of the school redesign process is project management, goal setting. So involving kids in challenges, things like the Kid Win Challenge, hands-on STEM competition, or the NEED project. The NEED project stands for National Energy Education Development Project. It's a nonprofit that encourages energy education programs for students. Grades 4 through 8, grades 9 through 12, they sponsor a youth awards program each spring So students can actually be part of the process, working with the teacher to plan a program throughout the year, and then be able to compete against schools, not just in Kansas, but across the country as a part of that program. One of the things that I was excited to see in February, the National Science Teachers Association came out with this position statement, emphasizing the value, the benefits of an interdisciplinary approach for the career connections, the real world problems. And as Brady and Casey were talking about, engaging students in studying what's happening in the building they're sitting in. You can't have a more engaging process than that. One of the things that's being looked at right now in Kansas, when we talk about the current situation and priority standards, what's most important for students to be learning? Teaching environmental science in Sterling, one of the things I work to do is make connections between physical science and environmental science, having an integrated approach. So as students are learning about producers and consumers from a life science standpoint, they're also learning the fundamentals of chemistry. We're bringing in that part of physical science. So we look at, again, flow of matter and energy. And then we look at what's happening in Kansas, producers and consumers as it relates to electricity. We've seen an explosion of the wind energy industry in Kansas and across the midsection of the country. So helping students understand the economics, the politics, again, all of these pieces fit together, and it's important students see the big picture and understand how the relationships of all of these things. Brady, Casey, I'll turn it back over to you. This was part of kind of, again, the process where you were implementing all of this.
This is from our Energy Expo, and one thing that I'm going to say, really done well and opened up is the community relationships and opening up different aspects. So we had our community come in and went over what we were teaching in STEM and went over our agreement and arrangement with Train and some of these other corporations. So this one was like they were basically roasting marshmallows on light bulbs, and they were talking about the efficiency of it and then the cost of it. And so as you will see, how much is a kilowatt hour? And then we go through actual studies, and our kids can see, okay, how much energy are we using? How many watts are we using for this light bulb versus how many are we using for the LED? And this is when we made the switch, and it wasn't an instant switch, but everything we replaced now in terms of what is going to save us the most money. Our kids were very financial, I'm going to say savvy, but they wanted that. And then the other aspect is, okay, the cost of this light bulb versus the cost of this. So sometimes when you say you're going to save more money, yes, but how much in the long run? And so going through these studies with our kids, it's the numbers are right there, and it's very, very cut and dry. And so it did change their perceptions, and they enjoyed showing not only parents but community members, hey, this is what we're learning, and this is what we want to change and go into.
I'll add something. On that previous slide, you saw some elementary students, and I guess what I really saw this is if you see the smiles on their face, this stuff is fun and engaging. They're learning by doing. They're not in the textbook. You can just see how motivating these real world learning experiences are, even for the youngest kids that might not understand what a kilowatt even is, but they can understand that this marshmallow roasted faster on this light bulb versus that light bulb, and can kind of make connections on that this one's hotter than that one. And so even though the kids at the elementary school were much smaller and didn't quite understand all of the in-depth topics that Casey's talking about at the junior high and high school level that they understood, it was fun and engaging, and they could still participate in that scientific process and this real world PBL learning experience, along with some older students, so they could be there on that. So I'd like to point that out.
Thanks, Brady. This light box is an example of resources that are available in Kansas through the Kansas Energy Program. So it provides students an opportunity to see the actual difference between an incandescent bulb, a compact fluorescent, and an LED light. It was interesting. Last fall, I was giving a presentation to 100+ students in a gymnasium and talked about this part. And I said, okay, there's this much energy difference with one bulb. You can imagine what it's like in this gym here. And I pointed up and kept going with the presentation. And at the end, a young lady came up to me and she looked at me and she said, excuse me, she said 120 or 126. And I said, 126 what? Multiplied by the 4 bulbs in each one. She literally did a lighting audit while I was sitting there finishing the presentation. And that's what this program does, is it engages students through studying what they can see in their own building.
I'm going to go over kind of the timeline of how we, I'm going to say, emerged with the whole process. In May, we went to train with a summer enrichment program, and it was for 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th graders, a few 4th graders, a few 7th graders, but mainly 5th and 6th graders. Those kids now are into our high school, and so there is a direct connection, I know, from a parent's point of view. I got to go along. My son was a 5th or 6th grader at the time, and so I get to play the double card of parent and also principal. But I went in to train, and I had no clue the background and what you could actually know. And they had pulled some of our building data, and they said, well, this is every 15 minutes. And I was shocked. And so then we really started, and Dan won't give himself enough credit, but Dan meets with our students and teachers regularly. He is one of our faculty members. We consider him one of ours, and we have to share him with others, but he is fantastic. And he is a great resource that our teachers know they can go to at any time and get more information. And so we've learned about wind energy. Warren Martin came in from the other side of the resources. And so we're looking at wind energy, but also petroleum. And then we learn about these wind turbines. And so we send out some different information, and we survey the teachers. We get a map. Okay, what room's hot, what room's not. And so as we're taking data from the teachers and the students, we're also on another aspect learning, like, okay, how can we maybe better this management? And so the wind turbines took off. And I would say last spring, the Kid Winds, when they created those teams, and we didn't start until the spring this year, and I get the whole last 9 weeks was canceled and everybody's disappointed, and trust me, we were dominated because we were doing really well. But like, we were working from August on this year, but last year we didn't start until January, February, and the growth of our mindset in how do we create wind energy and what do we get from them was fantastic. The other thing that I would say is we presented, our students were learning not just energy. They learned how to present. They presented to the board multiple times. They've presented at the CTE conference 2 or 3 years running now. It's a continuation, and they do a fantastic job. So anytime you can get kids presenting, and sometimes they don't understand who they're presenting to. And the one time, and my son was presenting, I said, well, who'd you talk to? And he told me, he's like, but I don't know who they are. And I was like, well, they are the college deans and they are superintendents. And like I said, they're really important people. And he said, oh, I didn't know that. And so I didn't want to give him too much information because then he might get nervous. But so we go to the state Kid Wind, and our scores continue to multiply as they are manipulating. And you can see in the middle there, you have a 3-blade, and that's a high school team. And those guys are very agricultural based. They are as farmers can be. And everything was metal, and it was welded, and it was sprocketed tight together. And they went. And if you go to the next slide, I think there's a picture I want to talk about. And so they went, and it didn't turn at all. And then there's 3 girls in there that theirs was very loose, and they have no agricultural basis at all. And they said, well, we wanted to have it floating there. And so the kids learned, like, how do I make these gears go with wind? And maybe it can't be ultra tight. And then they looked at, how do I change pitch? How do I do different things of that nature? Hold on, our screen's going black here. So we go to the National Kid Wind as a junior high team, and our numbers had gone from, I think, 22 joules initially clear up to 84. Well, this year's team started in the 80s already, and so they were looking forward to going forward and going on that. We also took the NEED trip, and so the energy project, it was fantastic. We went to DC. There were 26 total, but 20 kids who went, and there was an energy conference for a few days, but we also got a tour and see some of the other sites in Washington, DC. And so they got experiences that they would for sure not have had they not been in this program. And so we were going there. One thing that they learned through all of this is we really need to look at solar. We need to look at wind energy. What can we do as a school to bring in more, I'm going to say resources, not just what we're doing now. And so we presented to the community at the Energy Expo. Our city administrator came. We had an open house. Normally that's our project fair and our art fair. And we combined all three of them in one night. And it was fantastic to watch the kids go through and give their presentation to the citizens of Beloit. And so we had local community members saying, like, what are you guys doing in school? Because that's what they want to know. It's easy to see this building and say, like, well, that's the school, that's what they do. But like, to come in and have our kids present to them was the best thing. Anytime you can have your students explain what they are doing. Talked about Dan and what he does and how he teaches the concept, and that's key. Part of our learning goals, understanding the basics of renewable and non-renewable, and that's where Warren Martin came in, and some of the kids came back and said, well, I didn't understand why we needed oil so much, and I didn't know what it was actually used for. So that concept and that aspect, it was really mind opening, and the kids said that was just not, it wasn't on my radar. And so I think that's key. With the community resources, another thing that we did, and go to the next one there, and I'll continue. We went to Cloud County. It's 30 miles away. Concordia is 30 miles away. We went over there and we looked at the wind farms, and then we said, wow, how does that impact us? And instantly kids said, can we get one of those for our school? And it's still a financial thing. Do we want one? Absolutely. Is it in our plans? Hopefully, but again, you have to take steps to get there. Our electrical consultant, Scott from the city, talked about this is how much you use, this is how it is. And so our goal, and we now have the solar panel, is maybe we can get some more, maybe we can write some grants. We write a ton of grants, and I will tell you that our kids have no problems writing the grants. And if students want something, sometimes we turn that over to them and say, like, hey, let's find you, like, you produce it, you come up with it, and then I'll help you out and I'll submit it. And so to me, that's ownership. If you want change and our kids say, like, this is how we want it to work, that's we allow them to do that. And so we've sent several students to Cloud County to look into wind energy from our STEM program. And so it's very new. It's we're going to call it cutting edge for us because we hadn't sent that too much there. Here are our high school gals at the top, and their fan and their wind, and we saw so many different designs. And our junior high team went to nationals. Our ladies were fantastic, and their tweaks and their I'm going to say attention to detail was absolute perfect. And what they realized is, well, we should have done this before we got to it, because when you get to the challenges, it's you have 10 minutes to get your best minute of energy production. Well, it was a new gig to us, and we learned. And so I think they got 5th out of the state to some programs that have been doing it a long time. But the junior high kids really looked up to the high school kids in terms of, okay, what are they doing and does it work? And then they would tweak theirs based on that. But the different blades, and so you can see the top corner there on the left, it was the three blade system. Okay, this is what we're going to start with. And by the time we get to nationals, we had dual blades, and we had well, first off, we started using oil and bearings and all kinds of tricks that we had no clue when we started. And our kids said, wow, this makes it much better and much different. So the what they learned was astronomical. They also learned, and we're going to play this video here, but they also learned how to fundraise and how to, if you want to do something, you have the opportunity, but you have to take, I'm going to say, initiative. And so our kids raised $23,000 in a month to go to DC and to go to Houston. And it wasn't somebody writing a check for 20 grand, and it wasn't parents, I can tell you that. It was, they hit up the wind farms, they hit up anyone and everyone. They sent letters, and this video was on social media. So I'll sit back and let you guys watch this. So the kids made the video, and they also went through the whole process, and I think they learned a lot. They spent a lot of their own free time, whether it be Saturday mornings or whether it be, I know it was over Easter break, they came into school at all hours and really worked on it. And you can see at the bottom left how much it changed from a 3-bladed fan to now we're having multiple. I will also say they learned how to manipulate on the move, because when they got to Houston, so they're at nationals, they have their fan blade, and they have their perfect, what they think is going to win, and they put it in the high velocity tunnel, and it blew up because it couldn't handle that. And so they had to recreate the whole thing while they were there, and basically learn, okay, we better be able to adapt, or we just came to Houston for nothing. And so they did, and they learned that. And from a parent's point of view, I had great conversations with my son, and my son's not going to talk to me about school just to talk about school, because he's, Dad, you're the principal, I don't want to talk about school when we're at home. But we would talk about this, and I remember, messing with a fidget spinner, and I said, why don't you guys think about this? And he said, we have bearings, and it was like, we've already one-upped you, old man. And that's a good thing that our kids were thinking outside the box. And so I know they had a fantastic time, and they learned so much.
This is just add in right there, Casey, real quick. I will just add in, I mentioned the Kansas Energy Program earlier. We actually have, through them, 5 wind tunnels available for schools across the state. So it is a team effort in supporting schools with, again, studying energy all the way from how we generate electricity to the end consumer, how we utilize it or use it efficiently in our buildings. Casey, go ahead.
All right. And so this is the bill I talked about earlier. And so our normal monthly bill, and this is for our building, how much are we using? How much total? And so if I give this to a kid, they're going to look at it for about 2 minutes. They're like, okay, I can figure this out. These are the points. And I can't really manipulate it. I can't really do anything with it. And so this was for the entire year of 2016. If I give them this one, and we can take this graph, this chart, and we can go day by day, hour by hour. We can section it up. You name it, you can manipulate it that way. But all of a sudden it comes to life for the kids, and they can see the spikes. They don't just get one point like, hey, we use this much energy on this day, because that's not very exciting. Now it's, hey, look at the spike at 6:15 a.m. And we're billed for the spike. We have learned that from our energy consultant and from our local city manager. Whatever the maximum you use for a day, that's your billing rate for the entire time. And so if we can lower our spike, we're going to lower the cost of our energy. And so that knowledge alone tells them, I hope, when I go home, maybe I don't turn everything on at once. Maybe there's a reason that you don't have the air conditioner and you do laundry and everything else during the middle of the day. And so hopefully they learn a little bit of that. Living Learning Labs, one thing that we talk about all the time, our STEM room, it was a closet, and we took all the junk from the closet, we put in a decent floor, and we put in a few computers that they could use. But it is truly a crafting room, but they have changed it into a lab, which they throw these graphs in, and then they put it up on a projector, and they can manipulate, and as a class they can learn and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to save more money? What do we need to do to be more efficient? And so when you look at this is from the elementary school, their gym use for the big picture, if we want to say. And they said, why are we using energy in this break? This is Christmas break. So we have this chunk of green in there that there should be nothing going on. And then all of a sudden it spikes for a day. And when they started going back through the calendar, and they kind of worked backwards, like, okay, here's our chart. And now they found out that we had a basketball tournament. And that was one of the first times they said, are you charging enough rental for your gym? Because it's going to cost you X amount of dollars in energy, and we don't think you're charging enough. And so that's kind of an interesting point in the fact that the kids figured it out quickly. Why is it green on this Friday? We should have school on this Friday. You go back through. It was a snow day. And so kids make those connections, and instantly it's, wow, that is a ton of energy saved, which constitutes a ton of money saved. And so, I would say schools, but everyone's on a tight budget, and they're like, well, where can we save money? Well, we can, have this, charge more, or according to the kids, why don't we have more snow days, and then we wouldn't use energy. But that's kids being kids. So, but the connections are what is fascinating, and the fact that our kids were making those connections.
This is a great example what Casey is sharing there. When it's your data, your building, and you can match it up with the district calendar, that provides a level of engagement that we can't provide students with a case study out of a textbook. Casey, go ahead.
Okay, and so now we're looking at how do we save money, and what do we want to do? And obviously the initial, I'm going to say, from most people's point of view, what can we do? Well, let's turn off the lights more frequently. And the ideas that were thrown out there were maybe we shut off the lights between classes and passing periods in the hallways and do different things. And we wanted to scale it back to make it more realistic, because you can't turn your lights off all the time during school, but we can change a few other things. And so we looked at the startup and the spike, and so we said we're going to stagger the start, and so we've done that, and they've noticed the spikes aren't as high. We have put in sensors in all the bathrooms. The bathroom lights have always just been on, and now they are censored. When we did it, the kids kind of said, like, well, the lights aren't on in the bathroom. Well, go walk in there, and they come on. And so it instantly became, though, hey, that's common sense if we want to save money, and we can see how that is impacting. And so those were the short term, like what can we do immediately and afford, and then the long term is how do we go to solar? And this is the CO2 levels, and this is more of a good story than it is anything else. But like our students were looking at the different rooms, and I think room 111 was the highest, but it was also an English room with a very difficult teacher. And so one of the students just said, like, well, the reason that I'm not getting an A in my English class is because there's too much CO2 in the air. And so it was humorous, or the fact that you're not studying. But they made those connections on whose room is there, why is it uncomfortable. And so a lot of it was temperature, but just stuffiness in the room, and it wasn't changed. Last Christmas we changed the duct work, and we put in a bunch of basically fans to keep it running and localized heat. Our rooms our building was built in the 70s, and it was the open concept. And so there were no walls when it was built, so everything just heated and cooled the same. Well, now we have walls because that didn't really work. And it was very inefficient. And so we just took a chunk of the building. We took the worst rooms and we added in units on each one. We can now manipulate them with our computer, and the kids tell me, but never before, I've been in education almost 18 years, and never before has a student sent me an email or talked to me and said, like, hey, whatever you guys did, like, that room is way better now. And it was total air quality. And so the fact that students will email me and say, like, I like the fact that the rooms aren't stuffy and it's not freezing or hot. There was no middle ground except for maybe an hour or two all day long. So I found that incredibly interesting that students took the time out and they realized, like, we've made some significant changes, and that's kind of what we're doing. Talked about presentations and who they've presented to, and you can see this is the kids up in the upper left presenting to the Board of Education, and that's one of the first designs they had, which was in the 20s for Jules, and it was, I called it the Bigfoot design because it was like a giant foot, and they tweaked it, and then they realized, like, okay, there's a reason fan blades don't look like this. What is it? And then they became, I'm going to say, thinking outside the box, and they truly grabbed that and they went with it. The need, and I might let Dan talk a little bit about need, but I do want to mention one thing because it's been a little overlooked, and I saw the picture. Our two teachers who were involved at the high school and our elementary tech teacher, like, they've been fantastic. I can't think of any three teachers that have just ran with it more. And so our STEM teacher at the high school level, she was new, it was her second year, and she just took off, and she absolutely dominated it. And our junior high teacher has every kid go through our program, and she's super competitive. And so as soon as we have one thing that, like, we're going to compete against you for total jewels, like, they worked and they got after it. At the elementary school, their knowledge base when they would get to the high school is just locked in. So I would say the fact that our district is it's K-12 is instrumental in what we know and how we are putting it into play. I'll let you talk about need, Dan. You're probably more familiar. I know we went last year doing it.
Again, the NEED project stands for National Energy Education Development Project, and they sponsor a youth awards program in the springtime, mid-April. Students in grades 4 through 8, grades 9 through 12 can submit a signature project that showcases with the efforts in the district throughout the year. Signature project is about 15 PowerPoint slides. They can include a video, but it's, again, the students highlighting their efforts to share what they're learning with other students, with community members, with others around the state. Last year, Beloit was recognized as the state school of the year in both divisions, and the high school team received the National Rookie of the Year award, so competing against schools from across the country. Again, I thought that said a lot about the efforts of the teachers and the students, the district as a whole, what they were doing to share what they're learning. So that's a neat opportunity, again, for teachers and students to kind of have some long-term planning events they will work on throughout the year. Definitely highlights the fact that learning is a process. It's not a chapter 1, chapter 2, you take the test. So it changes the focus. This is, again, the chance the students had to, thanks to community support, the fundraising efforts, had a chance to spend 3 days in Washington, D.C. I know Casey'd been there before and was able to help act as the tour guide.
This is one of my,
go ahead.
I take classes every other year to D.C. As I used to be a social studies teacher, so I still lead that. But taking a group of 20, and some of these kids would never have this opportunity. And it was a free trip for them. And so it was fantastic. They did the fundraising. And I know they served a meal. They did all sorts of activities to raise it. And then, I mean, we got a tour of the Capitol. We met with our Congressman Roger Marshall and lots of interest. We cruised on the Potomac. So there were several opportunities that are not given. And it was a full group. We had 6th graders, 7th grade, the whole way up. And so it was really nice. And our two teachers are there in the bottom right-hand corner. The young lady with the hat on is a student, but then the two next to it who are also young ladies, they're still, I mean, they fit in with the kids, and the relationships were there, and you could tell, and they are absolutely fantastic. This is where we started touching base and talking to the city of Beloit, and we said, hey, what can we do to maybe go solar? And the city of Beloit wanted to go that direction at the same time, but it's sometimes one of those, you know, who moves first, who takes the first chance. And so we decided to, you know what, we're going to redo some stuff at the school. If everything goes through, let's see if we can get a solar panel as well. And so we got it mounted. Unfortunately, and this is again, it's, you know what, it's what it is. We get it mounted late February. We're starting to look at some data. We're getting really excited. And then we shut down schools on the 13th of March. So we never really got to dive into the information and see it. It was basically a preliminary, here's what you have, how are you going to use it? And before our kids got to really look at, okay, how much energy are we actually getting? What is it based on? And so weather patterns and different things of the like. And so we're very excited about the fall and coming back and saying, okay, we have 6 months worth of data that we can go back and go through. And so that's key. Couple things about our schools that are just, I think, one of the fundamental, just very powerful statements. We were a state school of character, and we were a national school of character. In 2018, we've been working on it. So that's part of the Gemini. We've really been focused on character and community and in being involved in that. And in fact, in 2018, we were the only high school in Kansas that was a national school of character. And I believe there are only 27 in the whole United States. So we're pretty proud of that. Shifting school culture recognition was awarded to us in 19, and that kind of is a over time award. And so it has to prove that, you know what, this is something that you've done consistently. And then the elementary school, and I'll let Brady talk about it, also was awarded this year with the shifting school culture because their culture has changed.
Yeah, and we're honorable mention state school of character this year also. But that's one thing that we've been working on a lot is bringing our character education principles into the everyday learning experiences, the PBLs that we're doing throughout the building. And when students are engaged and they're doing the hands-on learning, they're taking ownership in their building, it's easy to weave those character teaching moments into these opportunities. And over time, you can see that we are making headway in shifting our culture and the character of our buildings and all the things that we're doing. And that's the beautiful part of doing these long-range projects like that. You can weave so much into it, from science and math to chart reading, but then character development, because what you see in all these pictures are students had to work together. They had to get along with each other. They had to listen to others' ideas. They had to be able to defend their ideas, and all these different things that they're going to have to do in the real world. Most likely, they're going to have to work with somebody once they leave our schools and get a job. They're probably going to be working in a team. They're probably going to have to problem solve. They're going to have to seek information out. They're going to have to get along with their colleagues and their peers, and engage in those social emotional learning traits also as we go out. And so that's one thing that gets overlooked when we focus on data and the science and the problem solving, but the kids are learning so much more in that also.
Casey, Brady, Jeff, excuse me. I appreciate you guys sharing your stories, the efforts of teachers, students, the team, and the whole community as far as what you've been doing. GA, I'm going to throw this back to you so that you can open up. If there's anybody that has questions, we'd be glad to help answer those.
Great. So there has been a couple of questions about the sharing of the video. We'll have that available on our website. Are there any questions for any of our principals or any of our trained folks that are on the call? We've got Chris is on the call with us, and Alan. So and Kevin is with us as well. So these are folks that work directly with Train. They've been with Train for a number of years, and so if there's any of those detail questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer them. This is the appropriate classroom wait time, which is actually a little bit longer when you're online than it is if you're in a classroom. Well, as we're waiting for any questions to pop up in the chat area, Kevin, anything you'd like to add before we get to those questions or sign off?
Well, two things. One, how thrilled we are to have partnered with a district that just really hit the ball out of the park right out of the chute. We're excited that they can be an example for other districts. We've seen the evidence of that with their willingness to present around the state and on these Zoom calls. I'd also like to take a minute to recognize a couple more of my team members and have them maybe give a little bit of their background, because this is a big team event and we have a lot of support for districts. So Aaron, if you can introduce yourself, and then Chris as well.
Sure thing. I'm Erin Rao. I work with the data analytics group within Train. And I love working with Beloit and other school districts like Beloit, because my background is in engineering and I had a love for math and science and STEM from the beginning. So getting to see the kids and the excitement that they get as we get our next generation of engineers, or just people that are interested in STEM type things, is always really fun for me to watch. So this is the most fun part of my job for sure.
Hi, I'm Chris Torline. I'm an engineer with Train, degree from Kansas State University, originally from Dodge City. And as with Aaron, I work for our data analytics division at Train, and it's been really neat to see the amount of data, the amount of analytical tools that are out that we as engineers get to use these days, and that software that the fellows from Beloit displayed. That's the same software that we use at Train. So to be able to see that being put to use, and the analytics and the analysis that occur, and to see the kids make the connections is really impressive. So congrats to Beloit for and the teachers there for really stepping up and take that. And it's been neat to see them every year ask, well, what can we do next? How can we analyze this, and what can go next? And it's just been really, really neat to work with them. So. Thank you.
Maybe back to you, Jeff, to close out.
Yeah, I'd say thank you to everybody, and thank you to Train, again, our partner there. And I guess I don't know a better way to empower students than to let them go out and lead the charge with this, and they have with this. And our buildings are better because of it. Their learning environment's better because of it. They're using cutting edge technology. This is not, I don't know how else to say this, but this is not our grandfather's HVAC systems. This is not the old HVAC systems that they're used to. You know, it's not plumbing. It's not, this is high-end careers here, and they're getting to see that in many different ways as well. So it's really works right along with the individual plans of study. Sorry, I had a call there. Individual plans of study that we do with the kids too, that we're pushing across, and it's just a perfect fit for this. And it's just, it fits in so nicely. And again, the kids have taken charge of this. And as Casey said, they've made the changes. Sometimes we have to just kind of back them up because there's a cost to it, and we can't just do everything at once. But they're saving money in the budget as they're doing this as well, though, as we've made these changes. You know, the efficiency changes that we made right up front save dollars, and now we're looking at how do we make it more comfortable and keep those dollars saved, or what's the magic piece in between that, and we're able to figure that out. So it's just good stuff, and it's just a great way to empower our students and let them have something that they're really in charge of.
Be back to UGA.
Casey, we would love to hear from your kids, though, when they come back and see what kind of savings that we had for 2 months when the building was closed.
Absolutely.
And then we'll go back to Jeff and see how that money was spent. Well, thanks for everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate Casey and Brad and Jeff for opening up their school and sharing with us, and again for Train for being great partners. And if you've not had a chance to visit the training facility in Lenexa, I would really encourage you to do that. It's a great opportunity to really see some of the analytics that are going on in our buildings across the state and how those are working. And again, on the repair side, how they're able to see challenges and issues that are popping up with your HVAC units before you even know there's a problem. And again, like Jeff said, this is not your grandparents' HVAC units. These are high-tech pieces of equipment that require highly skilled individuals to run those. So, you know, it's great that we have these opportunities in our schools, and we just hope we can continue to spread this across Kansas to enhance the learning for our kids. Thanks, everyone, and we really appreciate you joining us today. Take care and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.